The old mansion stood on a hill, dark, imposing, like a watchful monster. Its windows, like vacant eyes, stared out at the world. They were empty, soulless. The house was shrouded in shadow. The full moon's pale light did little to penetrate the darkness. The air hung heavy, thick with dread. A shiver ran down my spine. The house called to me, or maybe it warned me, I couldn't be sure, but I had to go in. The front door creaked open, its hinges groaning under the weight of years. The sound echoed through the still night, a haunting melody that sent shivers down my spine. A low groan echoed through the house, reverberating off the walls like a mournful wail. It was as if the very structure of the house was crying out in pain. It was the sound of despair, the sound of a heartbreaking. The room was filled with broken furniture, each piece telling a story of abandonment and loss. Inside, cobwebs clung to every surface, weaving a tapestry of neglect. The air was thick with dust, each particle a silent witness to the passage of time. Dust lay thick on the floor, undisturbed for years. The air was cold, unnaturally so, as if the house itself was exhaling a frigid breath, unnaturally cold, like the breath of a ghost. Silence, heavy, oppressive silence. Shadows lurked in every corner, watching, waiting. Then a whisper, faint but cold against my ear. It was a voice, barely audible, yet it sent chills down my spine. It seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. The whispering filled the room, creating a sense of unease that was impossible to shake. The hair on my arms stood on end. I was not alone. The presence was palpable, a cold, invisible hand that gripped my heart with icy fingers. I walked deeper into the house, the air thick with an unsettling silence. Each step felt heavy, as if the very floorboards were trying to hold me back. Like walking through water, every movement was a struggle. A chill ran down my spine as I passed a grand staircase, its once majestic presence now shrouded in darkness and decay. There at the top stood a figure, a woman, barely visible in the dim light. Dressed in a flowing white gown, her attire seemed to glow faintly. Her face was hidden in shadow, an enigma in the darkness. But I could feel her eyes on me, piercing through the gloom. She moved like smoke, ethereal and silent. Drifting down the stairs, her form seemed to float effortlessly. No footsteps echoed in the silence, no sound at all. Just a cold presence that seemed to seep into my very bones. A feeling of dread that sank its claws into me, growing stronger with each passing second. The house itself seemed to breathe with malevolence, every shadow hiding a new terror. Number 4. The Phantom Pianist. A sound cut through the silence. Piano music, coming from a room at the end of the hall. The melody was mournful, haunting. I peeked inside. A man sat at the piano. His fingers danced over the keys, but he was transparent. A ghost. He didn't stop playing. He didn't acknowledge me. He just kept playing. Lost in his own world of sorrow and regret. I knew his story. He was a musician. His music died with him. Number 5. The Ghostly Gathering. More figures began to appear, materializing from the shadows. A young girl skipping down the hallway, an old man rocking in a chair, a family gathered around a fireplace that held no fire. They were all ghosts, trapped here. Forever reliving their final moments, their sorrow and pain filled the air. It was suffocating. I was surrounded by their sadness, consumed by it. Number 6. An unsettling discovery. Then I saw something else, something that chilled me to the bone. It was unlike anything I had ever encountered before. The air grew colder and my breath became visible in the dim light. At the end of the hallway, a door stood ajar, and in the dim light I saw them. They were just standing there, motionless, as if waiting for something or someone. The silence was deafening, and every creak of the old house seemed amplified. Silhouettes, dark figures, watching me, but these were different. They weren't like the other ghosts. Their presence was heavy, almost suffocating. I could feel their eyes on me, piercing through the darkness. These felt sinister. They weren't sad, they weren't mournful. There was a malevolence about them, a dark energy that seemed to pulsate through the air. It was as if they were feeding off my fear. They were something else, something that sent shivers down my spine. My heart raced and I could hear it pounding in my ears. The feeling of dread was overwhelming, something that made me want to run, but I couldn't move. My legs felt like they were made of lead, and my body refused to obey my mind's desperate commands to flee. I was frozen, trapped. I was in danger. I knew that now. The realization hit me like a ton of bricks, and panic started to set in, but it was too late. The door creaked open a little wider, revealing more of the darkness beyond. I could sense that whatever was behind that door was far worse than what I had already seen.
Subscribe my channel. 99.7% not subscribe. Please subscribe my channel.